At the beginning, Rio was sitting on a desk and told everyone to check something out, as Rio showed her phone and said it looked delicious. Nanako remarked that it looked super high in calories and definitely something that would make someone gain weight. At lunch, when Kageyama returned from the bathroom, the class gal was sitting in his chair. Kageyama thought that it was a bit of a problem because he usually napped at his desk during lunch. With a tense face, he noticed the girl laughing and thought that whatever, he would just kill some time walking around the hallway. As he walked toward her, Rio saw him and asked if that was his seat by any chance. Shocked, Kageyama said that yes, that was his seat, and thought he had not expected her to approach him instead. Rio apologized and said she would move. Nanako asked who the guy was, and Rio stood up, telling Nanako she was careless and pointing out that it was the guy who always napped at his desk during lunch break, Kageyama. Kageyama thought that stung. Nanako then said, "Oh, that guy, huh?" Rio blushed and said right, and Kageyama also blushed but said nothing. He sat at his desk with his head down and thought that anyway, he had successfully reclaimed his desk. Two boys then noticed and one pointed out that Kageyama was talking to Rio. The other, a fat boy, said he was so jealous. Kageyama thought that even though they had only exchanged a few words, he had ended up attracting unwanted attention. The fat boy said he wanted to get closer to Natsukawa too, since she was a gal who was even kind to guys like them. The first boy said she had that big chest too, and he would love to squeeze them. The fat boy argued that the essence of Natsukawa was her butt, as no man could possibly resist those thighs peeking out from her skirt. The first boy said it was boobs after all, while the fat boy said it was about the butt. Kageyama thought that today's class conversation was all about her boobs or butt, but well, that was the norm. Rio, sitting on a desk with an angry face, said that she could hear those vulgar conversations loud and clear and that it was seriously gross. Nanako complained that there had to be something to compliment about her too. The fat boy ran away apologizing. Kageyama thought that even if there was a gal who was kind to nerds, she would not be unconditionally kind to everyone, as that would be too convenient. Rio said that saying stuff like that right in front of her was just too much. Nanako agreed, repeating that was what she was saying. Rio sighed, and then Kageyama's phone rang. It was Rio, who told him to meet at the usual karaoke after school. Kageyama looked at her and saw Rio blush. Nanako asked Rio if she was listening, and Rio, with a tense face, apologized and asked what they were talking about. Nanako said bowling, and Rio replied with "oh that." Then Rio said that she was really sorry but had to work today and would make it up next time. Nanako complained that she was working again, saying she had been doing that a lot recently, and asked if it was sugar daddy stuff. Rio strongly denied it, saying she would not do that, and that it was just a regular job. Kageyama thought about a part-time job and reflected that Rio would ask for that again when they were alone in karaoke after school. After school, at karaoke, Rio and Kageyama entered a room, and Kageyama thought that as soon as they entered, it always came to this. Rio, blushing, grabbed Kageyama's shoulder and told him to hurry up and take it out since she could not hold back anymore. Blushing, Kageyama thought it was too close. Rio asked if he was listening, while Kageyama thought of her cleavage. He thought that a private karaoke room just for the two of them and their relationship that no one knew about made the situation different. Rio said she had been itching for it since last night and could not go without it anymore, telling him to hurry up and connect, saying she was at her limit and to put it in. Blushing, Kageyama said it was hard to get it in right while standing like that, and thought that connecting it for the first time was not exactly praiseworthy in a karaoke room. Then he said he was putting it in. The speaker turned on, and Kageyama presented the new song Rio had requested, explaining he had made it for the upcoming Idol Festival, that for Underground Idols, a song that got everyone excited right from the intro was perfect, that Underground Idols had a tradition of adding calls during the song, so he had made the intro longer, and as requested, he had increased the BPM. He asked if Rio was listening. Rio was in tears, and Kageyama thought she was crying, wondering if it came out that good, or maybe something else. Then, with a happy smile, Rio said it was really good, grabbed his hand, and Kageyama blushed, thinking about her hand. Rio smiled and said it was amazing, incredible, and that she was speechless, praising his vocabulary and calling him a genius for making something so great in just a week. Kageyama told her not to hold his hand, but Rio replied that something like holding hands was fine. Kageyama insisted it was not. Blushing, he asked if she was even listening to him. Rio smiled and said he was talking about how much he thought about it for her. Kageyama denied it, saying she was wrong. Rio teased that he was not being honest. Kageyama thought that her interpretation was way too convenient, something like him working hard for Natsukawa. Rio then turned and asked if she could try dancing to the song. Kageyama, sitting, told her to go ahead and thought he could finally sit down while sipping a drink. He thought that even though they had not decided on the lyrics yet, if she danced in such a short skirt, Rio happily started dancing. Shocked, Kageyama thought that she could actually dance pretty well, but also noticed her panties and thought watching her dance got him somewhat lively, then corrected himself and thought, wondering why. He thought that normally even stealing glances at her skirt in the classroom did not faze him, but maybe because this was an enclosed space, the situation of him being the only one seeing her panties made it more erotic. Rio turned and asked how her dancing was, saying she was confident in her skills while blushing. Kageyama turned away and said it was pretty okay, while thinking that complimenting her seemed like a hassle, to be honest. Rio complained that he was cold. They sat down again, and Rio drank, saying it was hot and dancing had made her really hot. She called for 2 ginger ales. Kageyama pointed out he still had some left, but Rio laughed and said nevertheless, Kageyama was amazing for composing music, like a modern-day Van Gogh. Kageyama corrected her that Van Gogh was a painter. Rio asked if it was Mozart then. Kageyama told her she was being way too random and asked if she was really complimenting him. With a plain face, Rio admitted she did not have any original songs and mostly did covers, so having Kageyama was a huge help. Kageyama, with a tense face, thought that the conversation had suddenly gotten serious. Rio then grabbed his hand between her chest and thanked him for real. Kageyama thought his arm was being sucked up in her chest, noticed a sweet smell, and said it out loud. Rio backed off, blushing, and asked if she smelled. Kageyama apologized seriously, thinking he had not meant it that way, wondering why she was reacting differently than usual. Blushing, Rio admitted she had been sweating a lot from dancing earlier and should have been more mindful. Kageyama, blushing, told her it was not that she did not smell bad, and actually she smelled good. Rio asked if he was into that kind of fetish, and if she should stay away a bit. Kageyama denied it, but Rio still insisted she might smell sweaty and should move away. Suddenly, a drink from the table spilled on Kageyama's genitals. Shocked, Rio asked if he was okay with a tense face. Kageyama thought this was the worst. Rio apologized and said she would wipe it off right away as she leaned over his thighs. Kageyama thought that if she touched him there, it would be bad. He quickly said it was okay, that he would wipe it off himself, while blushing and thinking for her to please stop. At that moment, the door opened and a girl entered, holding 2 drinks, announcing she had their order, only to see them in that position. Kageyama shouted that it was not what it looked like, that it was a misunderstanding, blushing as he thought that thus, as the exclusive composer for this gal, would he be able to manage this properly. The scene shifted, and Kageyama thought that somehow, he ended up coming with just the 2 of them in a girl's house. Rio welcomed him inside, saying that when she told her mom about Kageyama, she really wanted to meet him. Kageyama thought, or maybe not, and then wondered if Natsukawa's mom was also a gal just like Natsukawa. They entered the hallway, and a woman appeared, introducing herself as Rio's mom. Kageyama immediately thought it was exactly as he imagined, questioning what kind of outfit she was wearing and wondering if she was Western. He introduced himself, saying, "Nice to meet you, I'm Kageyama." Rio's mom poked his cheek while saying that he was the boy she had heard so much about, and Kageyama thought he had a bad feeling about this. Rio's mom grabbed his hand and said she had heard his songs, that they were cool, but that his face was surprisingly cute. She asked how Rio was at school and if she was doing all right. With a tense face, Kageyama thought what a hassle. Rio entered, embarrassed, and told her mom that she was making Kageyama uncomfortable. Rio's mom reacted with a small sound of surprise, and Kageyama thought that Natsukawa was usually like this though. With an embarrassed expression, Rio's mom apologized and said that it was the first time Rio had brought a male friend home, asking with a laugh if she was being annoying. Kageyama replied that he was used to it. Rio said that she and her mom were currently watching a live video and asked if Kageyama wanted to join them. With a tense face, Kageyama answered that he was just there to see the costume and then leave. Rio hesitated, and Kageyama thought she was a hassle too. Rio's mom then wrapped one hand around his neck, saying that it was fine just for a bit, and Kageyama thought that he wanted to leave. With a tense expression, he admitted to himself that even if he kept declining, being outnumbered 2-1 would not do much. Rio stood in front and then grabbed his hand, and Kageyama agreed that if it was just for a bit, he would stay. Rio happily told him to sit on the couch for now. Kageyama gave a small sound of acknowledgement, and as he saw Rio making some drinks, he sighed, saying, "Thank goodness, he could finally relax." They all sat on the sofa in front of the TV, But Kageyama found himself sitting in the middle between Ryo and Ryo's mom. He thought about why he was in the middle. On his left, Ryo was laughing, and on his right was her mom. He stood up, saying that there was no way he could relax like this. Ryo asked if he got it too, pointing out that the place was so great he could not relax, and Kageyama thought that was not what he meant. With a smile, Ryo told him to wait because the next part of the song was amazing. Kageyama told her she was a busy one. With a blushing smile, Ryo pointed again, saying the visuals there were awesome, while Kageyama admitted to himself that he had no idea what she was saying any longer. He blushed and thought that when Ryo talked about idols, she seemed a bit different. Ryo's mother remarked that Ryo looked happy, and Kageyama looked at her as she explained that although Ryo had always been like this, recently she had been especially happy. Kageyama asked about recently, and they both fell silent for a moment. Then Ryo's mom explained that there had been a time not long ago when things were not going well for her. Kageyama remained quiet, and Ryo's mom continued, saying that before Ryo started being an idol a year ago, she would travel 1 hour both ways for dance lessons. Ryo would come home exhausted, barely able to stand, saying she could not walk anymore and asking to have her feet massaged. She always got excited before a live show. Ryo declared that she would make sure tomorrow's live show was amazing. Ryo's mom recalled that for a while, Ryo did not get any new fans and could not achieve the kind of live show where everyone in the audience was united and excited. Those days went on for about 6 months, and even someone as positive as Ryo found it tough. Ryo cried and hugged her mom, saying she was quitting being an idol. The flashback ended, and Ryo's mom explained that despite all of that, Ryo did not give up and kept going. Recently, her fans had been increasing, and she had also received cool songs from Kageyama. That was why she thought Ryo was having the most fun right now. Kageyama was shocked and thought that it was a great story and all, but he could not help being distracted by her outfit. He looked away with a tense expression, and then Ryo's mom said that he should please take care of Ryo, hitting him on the back. Kageyama complained that it hurt, calling her auntie. Her expression changed, and she repeated the word auntie with irritation before grabbing his collar. With a tense face, Kageyama thought that he had stepped on a landmine. With a smile, Ryo's mom said she preferred if he called her Junko, and Kageyama thought that was not something one said while grabbing someone's collar. He told her it was suffocating, auntie. She let go and said auntie was forbidden, and Kageyama agreed reluctantly. Ryo then asked her mom what she was doing. The scene shifted again, and Kageyama finally arrived in Ryo's room to check out the costume. Seeing a bookshelf, he thought, so this was a girl's room. With a smug expression, Ryo repeated the same line, and Kageyama remarked that it was pretty normal. He looked left and right, and Ryo teased him by asking if he was a bit restless and if it was his first time in a girl's room. Kageyama denied it, but then admitted it really was his first time, wondering where he should sit. Ryo got on her bed and told him to sit anywhere he liked, even offering him the bed. Kageyama said that was a bit too much and instead sat on the floor. He noticed something nearby, picked it up, and questioned what it was, thinking it was a mic but realizing it was not. With a blush, Kageyama wondered if it was something he should not be seeing. Ryo saw him holding it and explained that it was a massager, placing it on her shoulder. Kageyama sighed in relief, thinking that it was not for anything shady. Ryo added that it had been trending on Isostar lately, with influencers also using it. Ryo then asked Kageyama to use the massager on her legs. Kageyama questioned why, saying she could do it herself if it was her legs. Ryo explained that sometimes she just wanted someone else to do it. With a tense face, Kageyama refused, but then thought that normally he would never do this at all, yet after hearing the story from her mom, he felt differently. Looking at the beauty accessories on Ryo's table, he stood up and agreed, but only for the legs. Ryo was shocked, lay on her bed, and asked what was up, wondering if he was being unusually compliant. Kageyama thought with a tense expression that a gal lying on the bed and him holding the massager already looked like an adult manga plot. Ryo turned to him and warned him not to peek up her skirt, or she would seriously freak out, though she said she did not think he would. Kageyama shouted back that he would not and told her not to say weird stuff, pointing out that she wore short skirts all the time anyway. Nervously sweating, Kageyama told himself to calm down and just press it against her. He turned on the switch and announced that he was starting with the calves. Ryo enjoyed it and let out a sound, causing Kageyama to scold her not to make weird noises. Blushing, Ryo apologized, saying it just felt weird when someone else did it. Kageyama looked around her room, noticed her thighs, and thought that it was okay to use it on the thighs too. Ryo, still lying down, said that it felt good, telling him that he was really a lifesaver. Looking at the massager, Kageyama thought he was glad he could help in some way, even if it was like this. With a stunned expression, he looked at Ryo again and thought that even though she told him not to peek, he might not have a choice. His hands became sweaty after thinking about useless stuff, and the massager slipped, falling onto Ryo's ass. Ryo let out a loud sound in surprise, immediately closing her mouth with her hands in embarrassment. Shocked, Kageyama apologized, saying he would move it right away. At that moment, the door opened and Ryo's mom walked in, saying that she heard a loud noise and asking if everything was okay. She saw Kageyama on top of Ryo with the massager, and with a thumbs up, she said that he was good, laughing as she remarked that Kageyama was surprisingly assertive. Kageyama panicked, saying it was a misunderstanding. He thought that in various ways, he became her officially approved personal composer. Then he realized with another thought that they were supposed to look at the costume. The scene shifted to the school hallway, where Ryo asked Kageyama if he was coming to the Golden Week Festival. Kageyama, with a tense face, replied that he was not really going. Ryo questioned why, and Kageyama explained that he could not do Wodaje. Ryo, also with a tense face, told him that there was no one doing Wodaje in a live house. Kageyama then asked what people did there, and Ryo answered that maybe they did callouts. Kageyama told her that he could not do that either. Ryo then handed him a ticket and assured him that it was fine, saying that even if he just stood there like a Jizo, he would not stick out. Turning around, Ryo said that she would be waiting for him at the venue and ran away. Kageyama called out, asking what she meant by Jizo, and then thought with a tense face that this was not happening again before looking it up online. The scene then shifted to a live house where Kageyama thought that maybe because it was a festival, the venue was packed. He reflected that it was his first time entering a live house. A woman at the entrance told him that the drink ticket fee was 500 yen. Kageyama thought that he was shocked when he heard that there was a mandatory 500 yen charge at the entrance. He noted that it was almost time for the show to start, and while taking out his phone, he thought that Natsukawa was up second. Suddenly, someone placed a hand on his shoulder, and he saw that it was a girl. The girl asked him if this was his first time at a site. Kageyama thought that some weirdo just started talking to him, and then replied that, well, yeah, he guessed. He wondered in his thoughts if she was talking about the live house when she said site. The girl told him that she would give him some advice and said not to think about anything there, but to feel it with his soul. Kageyama thought that she was definitely weird. She adjusted her glasses and asked which girl he was there for today. Kageyama seemed confused, looked somewhere, and said, Natsukawa. The girl responded that it was a nice choice and asked if he was just a casual fan. Kageyama denied it, saying it was not like that. The girl then asked if he just liked Jiros in general. Kageyama shouted at her to just stop asking. As the crowd grew more crowded, the girl mentioned that the first group was about to start performing and reminded him that there should be no talking during the show since it was disrespectful to the idols. Kageyama looked shocked when he saw people screaming and thought that the energy from the intro was amazing and that this was the sense of unity Natsukawa was talking about. The girl next to him explained that the music, the idols' performance, and the fans' calls together created a groove that spread throughout the whole venue. Kageyama thought to himself that talking was supposed to be forbidden during the show. He then noticed that both the idols and the fans seemed to be having fun, but he felt that yelling out an idol's name was too embarrassing for him to do. After that, the first group's performance ended, and the idol thanked everyone. Kageyama thought that it was probably normal for underground idols to get that much hype. When the crowd fell silent, Kageyama realized that Natsukawa was finally up. The girl next to him shouted loudly for Ryo-chan, and Kageyama thought that she was so loud and realized that this girl must be Natsukawa's fan. Ryo appeared holding a mic, introducing herself as Natsukawa Ryo, and asking the audience to take care of her. Kageyama was in shock, and thought that the atmosphere was completely different from usual. The girl beside him shouted that they should get married at all costs, and Kageyama thought in disbelief about what this girl was saying. Ryo, with a dead stare, announced that she was going to perform a song for the first time, an original song she had prepared just for that day, and she asked everyone to listen. Kageyama thought that it was finally starting, his song in Natsukawa's show. As Ryo started to sing, Kageyama, with a stunned face, thought that the choreography Natsukawa said she had made in just one night perfectly matched his song. With a sigh, he admitted in his thoughts that even he thought the song turned out amazing. He then looked at the silent crowd and wondered how the audience was reacting. He noticed that even the fan next to him was getting into it, and everyone's eyes were glued to the stage, so the reaction was not bad. But then he thought that something was missing. He questioned why his cool song was not getting more hype, and thought that people should be raising their voices. He noticed that there had been way more fans chanting during the first group's performance. He reasoned that since it was the debut of a new song, maybe the audience did not know where to insert the calls. Besides, he realized it was a festival, so not everyone there was a Natsukawa fan. Looking at the silent crowd with a tense face, Kageyama thought about Ryo's smile and told himself that he was not doing this for her, but that it bothered him that his song was not getting hyped up. He clenched his hand and suddenly shouted, "Ryo-chan." The crowd and the girl next to him looked at him, and the crowd fell silent. With a tense face, Kageyama thought that maybe he had messed up. Then the girl shouted, "Ryo-chan," again, and soon the crowd started cheering as well. Kageyama thought that at this point he might as well go for it too and shouted, "Ryo-chan." Ryo looked happy while singing, and Kageyama stopped. Noticing that Ryo took a sigh, smiled, and thanked everyone very much. Kageyama thought that with that, Natsukawa's turn was over. He let out a sigh, and the girl next to him gave him a thumbs-up expression. Later, Kageyama was seen outside the live house and then on the streets. Suddenly, Ryo hugged him from behind, calling out for him to wait. Kageyama told her to be careful, and Ryo apologized repeatedly. Then Ryo suddenly called out to him, saying, "Hey, call master." Kageyama questioned what kind of nickname that was, and Ryo poked his cheek with a smile, saying that he was making perfect calls. Wasn't he? Embarrassed, Kageyama looked away and said that he just got annoyed that his song was not getting hyped up, that was all. Ryo repeated his words, teasing him, and asked if he was being tsundere, commenting with a tense face that it was kind of embarrassing. With a blushing, tense face, Kageyama asked her not to point that out. Ryo walked ahead of him and, while blushing, asked how her live show was. Kageyama fell silent for a moment and then answered that it was pretty hyped, and he guessed it was all right, with a blushing face. Ryo responded that his honesty was kind of creepy. Kageyama got annoyed and asked why she had asked if she was just going to call it creepy. Ryo laughed with a blushing smile and admitted that thanks to him, the show had gotten really lively, and she thanked him for coming that day. Kageyama blushed again and pointed out that her hair accessory was still on her outfit. Shocked and blushing, Ryo asked if it really was, and then said that it was cute, so maybe she would just leave it like that. Kageyama asked if that was really okay, and the scene showed that it was soon becoming night. The scene shifted to the school, where Kageyama was cleaning the school pool. With a tense face, he complained that it sucked and questioned why he had to do this, wondering if he was really going to end up doing it alone. He recalled that 3 hours earlier, he had been pretending to sleep in class as usual. The teacher had told him to wake up, Kageyama, while Kageyama thought that he had ended up passing out for real due to the long holiday fatigue. The teacher then instructed him to come to the faculty room after school, and Kageyama received the punishment of being stuck cleaning the pool. He thought, in this day and age, was this really necessary? Looking at the school pool, his face went pale as he said that seeing the pool with no water in it like this made it look so similar to the live house. He remembered Ryo singing, yawned, and thought that just a little while ago he had been having so much fun at the live show. He lamented that he would not be seeing Natsukawa until the next live show. Suddenly, he heard a voice declaring, "Not that I ever said I was going to attend." Shocked, Kageyama questioned what he was doing there all alone and sighed. It turned out to be Ryo, who blushingly called out to him from above, asking what was up. Kageyama saw her in shock, pointed at her, and demanded to know what she was doing there. Ryo, smiling with a blush, told him that he probably wanted some help, right? Upon hearing this, Kageyama also blushed, but then Ryo teased that she was just kidding because she had been totally passed out in class too. Kageyama asked in surprise if she had been as well, and Natsukawa admitted it. Ryo asked how far he had gotten while taking off her socks, and Kageyama, with a tense face, replied that he had gotten nowhere, that he was just about to give up and go home since there was no way he could finish this on his own. Ryo responded by saying, "Wow, that's the worst." Ryo then came down into the pool, tied her hair, and, while blushing, said that if it was the two of them, they might finish it in no time. Kageyama was stunned and shocked, wondering if it was because of that recent live show that Natsukawa seemed so reliable right now. An hour later, Ryo exclaimed that they were not even close to being done. Kageyama looked around and wondered what had happened to all her enthusiasm. Ryo admitted she was already bored, while Kageyama reminded her that she had come to help. Ryo then noticed a water pipe with water coming out of it and said that she had just thought of something fun, picking it up. Kageyama told her to hold up, warning her not to plan on splashing him since he did not want to get wet. Ryo splashed water onto his face anyway. Kageyama shouted in frustration, while Ryo quickly apologized, insisting she was just teasing him. Kageyama, irritated, muttered that they were not kids anymore and that there was no way he would retaliate or anything. But noticing a bucket at his side, he picked it up and threw the water at her while shouting, "Take this." Rio complained that it sucked, saying she was now completely soaked. Kageyama immediately thought he had gone too far and started to apologize, but Rio splashed water on his face again and smiled, calling it payback. Kageyama wiped his face as the evening approached. Nanako, hearing some noise, tensed up and wondered what they were doing. She then saw them. Rio asked Kageyama if they should head home soon, admitting that they had not finished after all. Kageyama replied that they had just ended up messing around. Suddenly, Rio's legs slipped, and Kageyama shouted for her to be careful. Both of them fell, with Rio's body landing so that her ass pressed against the back of Kageyama's head. Blushing, Rio got up quickly and asked if he was okay, while Kageyama thought how lame he looked. Rio then admitted that she thought this last time too, but told Kageyama that he was unexpectedly bold. Kageyama blushed, replying that unexpectedly was a bit much, don't you think, while Rio smiled and teased if it really was. Rio then groaned, saying it was the worst since she was soaked down to her underwear. She touched her skirt, and Kageyama blushed, thinking he had no idea how to respond to that. Rio continued, laughing, that even her underwear was soaked. Embarrassed, Kageyama replied that he could hear her. From above, Nanako interrupted, asking what the two of them were doing. Rio, startled, explained to Nanako that they were cleaning the pool, but Nanako, with a tense face, pointed out that the back part of the pool was not even close to being done. She then noticed Rio's state and remarked that Rio's clothes were totally see-through. Rio exclaimed in shock at that, while both Nanako and Rio noticed Kageyama, who hurriedly insisted that he was not looking. Nanako advised Rio to hurry and change, or she would catch a cold. Rio laughed and told Nanako that she sounded like a mom. Nanako urged her to come on so they could go home. Rio agreed. Kageyama decided he would head home too, noting that after Natsukawa finished changing, they said their goodbyes. Rio waved and said, "See you tomorrow," and Kageyama waved back, replying, "See you." Back in the classroom, Kageyama groaned that even his underwear was soaked, admitting that it felt awful. He concluded that he had no choice but to freeball it while going home. Suddenly, his expression turned to shock as he thought that this meant Natsukawa was also going commando.
By the way, if you enjoyed the video, maybe consider liking and subscribing, pretty please?